In Egyptian mythology, Ptah is the demiurge of Memphis, god of craftsmen and architects. In the Triad of Memphis, he is the spouse of Sekhmet and the father of Nefertum. He was also regarded as the father of the sage Imhotep. Origin and symbolism. Ptah is the creator god par excellence. He is considered the demiurge who existed before all other things, and by his willfulness, thought the world. It was first conceived by thought, and realized by the word. Ptah conceives the world by the thought of his heart and gives life through the magic of his word. That which Ptah commanded was created, with which the constituents of nature, fauna, and flora, are contained. He also plays a role in the preservation of the world and the permanence of the royal function. In the 25th dynasty, the Nubian pharaoh Shabaka would transcribe on a stela known as the Shabaka stone, an old theological document found in the archives of the library of the Temple of the God at Memphis. This document has been known as the Memphite theology, and shows the god Ptah, the god responsible for the creation of the universe by thought and by the word. Ptah is the patron of craftsmanship, metalworking, carpenters, shipbuilders, and sculpture. From the Middle Kingdom onwards, he was one of 5 major Egyptian gods with Ra, Isis, Osiris and Amun. He wears many epithets that describe his role in ancient Egyptian religion and its importance in society at the time. Ptah, the beautiful face. Ptah, Lord of truth. Ptah, Master of justice. Ptah, who listens to prayers. Ptah, Master of ceremonies. Ptah, Lord of eternity. Representations and hypostases. Like many deities of ancient Egypt, he takes many forms. Through one of his particular aspects or through syncretism of ancient deities of the Memphite region. He is sometimes represented as a dwarf, naked and deformed, whose popularity would continue to grow during the late period. Frequently associated with the god Bes, his worship then exceeded the borders of the country and was exported throughout the eastern Mediterranean. Thanks to the Phoenicians, we find figures of Ptah in Carthage. Ptah is generally represented in the guise of a man with green skin, contained in a shroud sticking to the skin, wearing the divine beard, and holding a scepter combining 3 powerful symbols of ancient Egyptian religion. There was scepter, the sign of life, Ankh, the Djed pillar. These 3 combined symbols indicate the 3 creative powers of the god: power, life and stability. From the Old Kingdom, he quickly absorbs the appearance of Sokar and Tatanen, ancient deities of the Memphite region. His form of Sokar is found contained in its white shroud wearing the Atef crown, an attribute of Osiris. In this capacity, he represents the god of the necropolis of Saqqara and other famous sites where the royal pyramids were built. Gradually he formed with Osiris a new deity called Ptah Sokar Osiris. Statuettes representing the human form, half human, half hawk, or simply in its falcon form, will be systematically placed in tombs to accompany and protect the dead on their journey to the west. His Tatanen form is represented by a young and vigorous man wearing a crown with 2 tall plumes that surround the solar disk. He thus embodies the underground fire that rumbles and raises the earth. As such, he was particularly revered by metalworkers and blacksmiths. But he was equally feared because it was he who caused earthquakes and tremors of the earth's crust. The god Ptah could be corresponding with the sun god Re, or Aten during the Amarna period, where he embodied the divine essence with which the sun god was fed to come into existence, that is to say, to be born. According to the Memphite mythological, theological texts, in the Holy of Holies of his temple in Memphis, as well as in his great sacred boat, he drove in procession to regularly visit the region during major holidays. Ptah was also symbolized by 2 birds with human heads adorned with solar discs, symbols of the souls of the god Re. the Ba. The two Ba are also identified as the twin gods Shu and Tefnut and are associated with the Djed pillar of Memphis. Finally, Ptah is embodied in the sacred bull, Apis, frequently referred to as the herald of Re. The sacred animal is the link with the god Re from the New Kingdom. He even received worship in Memphis, probably at the heart of the great temple of Ptah, and its death was buried with all the honors due to a living god in the Serapeum of Saqqara. Development of the cult. As god of craftsmen, the cult of the god Ptah quickly spread throughout Egypt. With the major royal projects of the Old Kingdom, the high priests of Ptah were particularly sought after and worked in concert with the vizier, somehow filling the role of chief architect and master craftsman, responsible for the decoration of the royal funerary complexes. In the New Kingdom, the cult of the god would develop in different ways, especially in Memphis, his homeland, but also in Thebes, where the workers of the royal tomb honored him as patron of craftsmen. For this reason, the oratory of Ptah who listens to prayers was built near the site of Deir el-Medina, the village where the workers and craftsmen were confined. At Memphis, the role of intercessor with men was particularly visible in the appearance of the enclosure that protected the sanctuary of the god. Large ears were carved on the walls, symbolizing his role as god who listens to prayers. With the 19th dynasty, his cult grew, and he became one of the four great gods of the empire of Ramses. He was worshipped at Pi-Ramesses as master of ceremonies and coronations. With the Third Intermediate Period, Ptah returned to the center of the monarchy where the coronation of the pharaoh was held again in his temple. The Ptolemies continued this tradition, and the high priests of Ptah were then increasingly associated with the royal family, with some even marrying princesses of blood, clearly indicating the prominent role they played in the Ptolemaic court. Main places of worship. Photos. Profile of the god Ptah, relief of the small temple of Hathor at Memphis, colossal triad representing Ptah, Ramses II Seknet, gardens of the Egyptian Museum of Cairo, pectoral of Tutankhamun representing the young king between the goddess Sekhmet and Ptah, Egyptian Museum of Cairo. Statuette of Ptah Soka Osiris, the Louvre. Votive stela dedicated to the god Ptah in the temple of Deir el-Medina. New Kingdom, XX dynasty. 1150 BC. Legacy. The English name Egypt derives from an ancient Egyptian name for Memphis, Ptah, which means home of the soul of Ptah. This entered ancient Greek as alpha gamma upsilon pi tau omicron sigma, which entered Latin as Egyptus, which developed into English as Egypt. Literature. Batiscum G. Guns. Instruction of Ptah Hotep and the Instruction of Kejeni. The oldest books in the world. 1998 Google Books. Benedict Rodhola, Nu Gedanken zum Denkmal Memphitische Theologie. Heidelberg, 2006. www.hub.uni-heidelberg.de/archive/7030. Marge Sandman Homburg, The God Ptah. Lund, 1946. Dorothy J. Thompson, Memphis Under the Ptolemies, 2nd edition. Princeton, 2012. Alan Pierre Zivy, Memphis Aces Necropoles au Nouvel Empire. Editions du CNRS, 1988.